Well, thank you, Ben. We just had a nice breakout. The topic of the breakout had to do with currency and economics. Uh, we exchanged a number of core ideas on the gifting economy, how the evolution of money is beginning to change, how we interrelate with each other. Um, and uh, Actually, we're going to publish as a result of the breakout a short biography or bibliography of some of the elements that were discussed and brought forward for additional data and materials and research, helping to form a more healthy, uh, uh, call it economic system. We talked about circular economics. We talked about some of the Jonathan Nash equilibrium theorems and how it's applying to this connection back with each other, and most importantly, a connection with the land. It was a remarkable breakout.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Is there more you want to add, Ingrametta? What's one particular insight or thought or question that you might want to share across the field of now what and beyond?
I think I'd like to express that there's the money can heal, and the well-being economy, and how we are in the pop-up community gifting economy of now what. We are pioneering something that we really don't know yet. And with the experience of Mark, and I think we are going beyond something called microfinance, microeconomy, that is grander than we kind of understand. I'm not sure. So it's an evolutionary process. We are together moving ahead to something. So thank you, Mark, for taking the challenge to assist in documenting. And also, please say something, Sulamit.
You want me to say something?
Well,
what's in my heart is just wonder. I came on this call saying, I feel inwardly, I want to meet friends. And I know it's possible to do this here on this kind of platform. And I don't need to fret about right timing. Timing is right when I appear. I trust the collective intelligence, if you like. So here I was, and then Ben asked, where do you want to go? I was like, lottery ticket. And so I just felt it was connecting me with that what really matters to me. And Ben knows that it's to do with the threefolding element of Rudolf Steiner's work and consciousness of money and the relationship to, and that's very much to do with Scotland, where I'm speaking from. The land does not belong to us. We belong to the land. And I feel that the whole system, with its kaputness, that the system that's kaput in so many levels will be healed by people connecting with the land and with each other in small cells of belonging. And so I felt that was, first I felt in this little group, I don't belong here, nobody's talking with me. And then in the end I felt, here I am. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Inge. Thank you, Norway. Thank you, Nova Scotia. I feel your land.
Nice.
And I'm just going to have to dive in and say I love the synchronicity about the circles, the circular economy, the circles of trust, the discussion that we just had about circles. That's beautiful. So the two groups were linked as well around circles.
Indeed, we were. We even looked at this. Tamar's amazing art.
That's in process, that one. That's not complete.
Oh, it's not complete.
No, if you look on
Which
the
one?
my cover photo on my page.
This one?
No. Go to the top of my page.
Banner.
There, that one. That's the completed. That's it. That's where it's finished. There you are. So it has like the, stick with the moss.
That's actual moss?
No, I painted it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh.
So funnily enough, I will tell you a little secret about that piece.
Mm-hmm.
When I started, I was thinking sort of playfully of the idea, because I was exploring circles and roundness. So I was thinking with this one, I would start with the idea of a breast. And this was like a yin yang sign in the middle. Where it ends up was nothing to do with that, right? I was like it was just a jumping off place. And I find that so often the case when I'm working, it's in these patterns, is that my idea of what I'm really struggling with a diptych right now too. I'm not sure if there's pictures of it up there. It's a masculine, feminine. So it's two circles, one to represent and very challenging. Like even what are our, that's very subjective for everyone, their idea of what's masculine and what's feminine. So it would be probably farther down, but above that. There we are. Here, see the target? That's the masculine, and see the two in there you go. That's them. They're not finished yet, but that's in progress. If you click on that, there you go. So the feminine is on the left. Whoop, not the pair. The pair. So the feminine is on the left, and it became much more of a spiral, and and the target was on the right is the masculine. I was thinking about Jasper John's Target paintings, which is funny that I would put those in, because he was actually gay. So anyway, so this one's really challenging me, and that's where I'm at with it. But what my point that I was making was like this process, like where you jump in and start off with, and then the journey, it goes somewhere sometimes completely different than anyone, even the author or the artist might think that it's going.
Yeah, I think that connects to some of what I was trying to express in our breakout, where I was basically doing some orientation and overview of the labyrinth that is Now What, and what's been most satisfying to me in my own sort of engaging within the space that I'm helping to create is when I may start with a certain destination in mind or intention, but I also wind up wandering and just sort of following the breadcrumbs and the trails and the connections and seeing where that takes me, and just trusting the synchronicity of that, and that playful spirit of engaging feels to me like what's most available, and in some ways just most satisfying. It's a very different mindset from, I'm here because I have this problem to solve and I need to make these 5 connections and raise this much money in order to build this thing. I think the space can be used for that too.
I think what this process is allowing for, because I know in my own work and what you're describing there as well, is intuition, right? Your intuition is the thing that like guides you through a labyrinth or a process. So I love that, that this is a very intuitive process you've created here in terms of how we jump in and engage with it.
Can I make a request, or it's sort of an observation and request? The conversation is wonderful and fascinating and fast. And I've been doing a lot of work with Extinction Rebellion, and they have some incredibly helpful symbols that they use, so that people whose minds or ability to engage moves at a slower pace everyone can just kind of raise a finger. This is just a suggested, because I can't join in at the moment. And I'm having to go against how I feel comfortable participating in a conversation in order to speak. And so now I'm speaking about this instead of about anything that I'd actually like to share from a content perspective. So I'm wondering if we could create something that works for different ways of engaging and allows people who might be oriented a bit more like me, perhaps, in that sort of more hesitant to just jump in and create a sense of order without killing the spontaneity. So I just, you know, and the only thing I know so far was what we've done with Extinction Rebellion, where someone, for instance, you, Ben, kind of act as a moderator, and when a person feels like they have something they really want to contribute, they just raise a finger and that gets noted, and then they put the finger down so they can carry on listening. So that's just a thought, and I'm really interested in if other people have got different experiences that help to create an environment that's inviting for all types of engagers. Thank you.
In these, yeah, well, I could say a lot about that, and I think in general, slowing down is often good, and I share your sense sometimes of being in a conversation where I don't want to interrupt other people, but I can't get into it if I don't. In any case, let's complete our intention of a little bit of meaning making from what happened in our previous conversations, and then I'm happy to address that. I think I'll just say that the short version is that now it is a space where you can convene anything you want, and if there's a particular way of engaging that you want to support, you're absolutely invited to create that space, including on these cafe calls, to just come in and say, I'd like to be in a slow conversation with this kind of a process that I'm happy to facilitate on this topic. Who wants to come with me? And off you go. So that may be the most direct way to get what you want, is to actually create the space for it. But I take the general suggestion of slowing down too. So any further thoughts on the meaning of what's happened here that you might want to share with others? What touched you or moved you? Maybe we're complete. Well, Claire, do you want to, is there something, you know, well, what was the thing you wanted to say?
Well, to be honest, that might have been what I wanted to say, which is that I need more room to find out what I want to say. And I feel grateful to have been able to express that out loud, because it really matters. There's a lot. I think for me, it comes down to, I guess, with my work, which is looking at different ways of knowing. And that the way we've constructed societies tends to favor, and this is not to make anybody wrong, please understand that. This is an observation about how we structure society most naturally. And it seems that most naturally, we tend to go with the people who are best suited in terms of their style to engage and orient others. And I think that's why we've had so much devastation in terms of indigenous genocide, cultural genocide, losing so much of the arts, because they're so much more receptively oriented, and the expression is almost an epiphenomena. It's not, it's the process itself which is so valued. And that's why, because the forests are quiet to our ear, and so we don't notice them if they're speaking. We don't even necessarily think of trees as moving, but they do. So there are these practitioners of life that we share the planet with, and I so appreciate them. And any way that we can be honoring in mindful of that. And I don't have a specific, apart from the slowing down, which I think really helps, to allow that sort of more quietly fizzy part of us, or tickly part of us, to kind of say hello. And it may not have a solution that it wants to offer, but just simply a hello that it wants to wave into the space. I hope that makes some kind of sense.
I can't raise my finger because I have no video.
That's great.
I have to raise my voice, sorry. But I love this theme of trees and circles. Like, I mean, they're all, you know, we really have this tree thing going on. And for me, like, I think I said somewhere that if I had a religion, it would have something to do with trees. Because they are. I spent 25 years living deep in the woods of Nova Scotia, and they wait. They're very patient. Everything comes to them, you know. And Ben, I think mentioned, or someone mentioned the idea of like trees as the, you know, the companies or the corporations, and that sort of shocked or horrified me, because to me, I think of trees as like, I mean, it not that it doesn't make a certain kind of sense. I could probably make a meaning too, but the experience, like you spoke of, you know, the presence of being in trees and forests. And my father actually wrote, he was a journalist and an author, and he wrote a lot about trees. And so trees are just very, to me, they're just such a large part of my own existence. And I have, Mark knows this about me, I had these two trees in Rosebud, where I lived, that grew beside each other. One was a birch tree and one was a beech tree. And when you put your hands on the birch tree, it is so supple and moving, and especially if the wind is blowing. And when you put your hand on the beech tree, it is like a rock, you know? So the feeling between these two different trees is like, and you have to slow down, like you say. You have to slow down and just like be in there and touch them, and, you know, touch the earth. And Shulamith, spoke about like how this was going to be, you know, be what would save us, is like people connecting with the earth. I'm not sure if anyone has read the Ringing Cedars book. Amazing series of books, very much about this woman that lives in the taiga forest in Russia, and very incredible series of books. But she says that very same thing, that it is through like us connecting, and I have no video here, but I'm like connecting and like touching the earth that, you know, is what will save us and save the system. So very simple, slowing down and like breathing. And I think the biggest thing in my work is, like, what I love to do in the patterns is go in and make space. Because I feel that interconnectedness in things so much, and I've felt it for so long. And so spaces are where you can begin again, you know, like where you make a clearing. So thank you for speaking, like saying what you just said.
Thank you.
In our community where I live, we've got some very loud people and we've got some very quiet people. And what we use is a talking stick, because that way the quiet people get a chance to actually get a word in. If we haven't got the talking stick, out of the 12 of us, there's probably only 3 that speak. So a talking stick is an interesting way. Yeah, and I think it's beautiful. And it also sits with that circle again, a talking stick in a circle, rather than that popcorn bang, 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 bang. It allows time for thought to go round the circle. Anyway,
You know,
yeah,
we
the circle way.
Virtual talking objects too, where people take it up and take it back and each have something. You know, I also would like to think that we can just learn to do it better, you know, and particularly those of us that tend to be the first ones to speak up and tend to speak at much greater length than others need to just step back and let others step up. And you know, structures and processes are good, and maybe we don't need them as much as we, you know, in a formal context, yes, but maybe there are other places where we can just learn to do it better. I know I'm as guilty of that as anybody, taking up a lot of space.
Ben, what comes to mind is kinesthetics. So I'm thinking about what you just said, and I understand the thought. I relate to the thought. And at the same time, there's something about the kinesthetic of touching something that makes me know now I'm focused on either speaking or on being available to hear. And maybe that's a stepping stone. You know, like with Polly Higgins, for instance, with her ecocide laws, her ambition was that in the near future that we won't need laws because people will have a better relationship to right relationship in a collective kind of agreed way. And yet she worked on laws to start with because that's where we were at. So that comes to mind. And in a virtual space as well.
Yes, and I think another thing for me, my mother was mentioning this on a call recently, and now what? There are different cultures and styles of communication, and as an Ashkenazi Jew, I come from a culture of interrupting. And the talking stick is an anti-interruption device, right? And these things both have their place, but I love being in a conversation where it's actually okay for me to interrupt and dive in. It's not always so, and so, you know, we sometimes need permission for that. But, you know, I just wanted to name that. Learning to interrupt compassionately, that's an art that I want to practice and share.
And then
There we go. There you are.
what did you do?
Samar!
Yeah, just Mark. That's my life.
What, do you have a date? Mark said you're engaged.
No. Oh, no, not yet. No. We're figuring it out.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a thing that happens with Mark and technology. I laugh because my computer doesn't work, and then Mark like comes into the vicinity of my computer and it snaps to. He says it's not uncommon for him.
Ben?
Think you're better, yeah?
Yes. Before we split up in the small outbreaking group, I wrote two sentences. I wrote the mystery of now what, and then the next thing is a labyrinth of connections. Because you were showing this confusing map and all these kind of people popping up, and like, so it's like it's where to start and where to connect in this dialogue. it's a mystery. And in fact, it's also a miracle that it's possible, because we are using the technology as we have in front of us. So we are learning. So, and we will definitely get more advanced and still have trust and still build a community, I think. So thank you, everybody, for this time together. So thank you, Ben.
Welcome. Maybe I'll close this with a poem from the meaning-making process in the last edition of Now What. It's a young man in Israel, Ben Rutenberg. He's part of the Wellbeing Economy Alliance, We All, that we mentioned. So he and I met on their online forum, and I hope he shows up here in some of the live engagement. Would someone like to read this? Out loud?
Oh, okay.
If no one else wants to, I will.
Well, yeah.
Yep.
Claire? No?
I think
Okay.
Shulamith seemed like she wanted to.
Oh,
I wasn't sure if I heard you, but I thought I did.
Thank you, Claire. That sort of shows another gift we can cultivate. It's to look out for each other, to speak for each other. Not everybody has everybody in awareness when we hold a screen like this. So I thank you. A gram of embodiment is worth a ton of speech. Rhapsody, intonation, reveal the truth. If you can listen, radical integrity, no apologies, are far worthier than fake till you make it. Cost benefit and pragmatism. Joy is the key.
Thank you.